This is an important message for the Nixon Watergate timeline. In November 1968, Richard Milhous Nixon, the 55-year-old former vice president who lost the presidency for the Republicans in 1960, reclaims it by defeating Herbert Humphrey in one of the closest elections in U.S. history.
In July 23rd of 1970, Nixon approves a plan for greatly expanding domestic intelligence gathering by the FBI, CIA, and other agencies. He has the second thoughts a few days later and resigns as his approval.
June 13, 1971, the New York Times begins publishing the Pentagon Papers, the Defense Department's secret history of the Vietnam War. The Washington Post will begin publishing the papers later this week.
On September 9, 1971, the White House Plumbers Unit, named for their orders to plug leaks in the administration, burglarizes a psychiatrist's office to find on Dan Ellsberg, the former defense analyst who leaked the Pentagon Papers.
June 17, 1972. 5 men, one of whom says he used to work for the CIA, are arrested at 2:30 a.m., trying to bug the offices of the Democratic National Committee at the Watergate Hotel and office complex.
June 19, 1972. A GOP security aide is among the Watergate burglars. The Washington Post reports former attorney John Mitchell, head of the Nixon re-election campaign, denies any link to the operation.
August 1st, 1972. A $25,000 cashier's check, apparently earmarked for the Nixon campaign, wound up in the bank account of a Watergate burglar, the Washington Post reports.
September 29, 1972, John Mitchell, while serving as Attorney General, controlled a secret rebellion fund using it to finance widespread intelligence gathering operations against the Democrats. The Post reports.
October 10, 1972, FBI agents established that the Watergate break-in stemmed from a massive campaign of political spying and sabotage conducted on behalf of the Nixon re-election effort. The Post reports.
November 11, 1972, Nixon is re-elected in one of the largest landslides in American political history, taking more than 60% of the vote and crushing the Democratic nominee, Senator George McGovern of South Dakota. April 30th, 1973, Nixon's top White House staffer, H.R. Hadelman and John Enrichman, and Attorney General Richard Kleindienst re-sign over the scandal. White House counsel John Dean is fired.
May 18, 1973. The Senate Watergate Committee begins its nationally televised hearing. Attorney General designate Elliot Richardson taps former Solicitor General Archibald Cox as the Justice Department Special Prosecutor for Watergate. June 3, 1973. John Dean has told Watergate investigators that he discussed the Watergate cover-up with President Nixon at least 35 times, the Post reports. June 13, 1973. Watergate prosecutors find a memo addressed to John Ehrlichman described in detail the plans to burglarize the office of Pentagon Papers defendant Daniel Ellsberg, psychiatrist. The Post reports.
November 17, 1973. Nixon declares, "I'm not a crook," maintaining his innocence in the Watergate case.
December 7, 1973. The White House can't explain an 18-and-a-half-minute gap in one of the subpoenaed tapes. Chief of Staff Alexander Haig says one theory is that some sinister force erased this segment. April 30th, 1974. The White House releases more than 1,200 pages of edited transcripts of the Nixon tapes to the House Judiciary Committee, but the committee insists that the tapes themselves must be turned over.
July 24th, 1974. The Supreme Court rules unanimously that Nixon must turn over the tape recordings of 64 White House conversations, rejecting the president's claims of execution privilege. July 27th, 1974. House Judiciary Committee passes that the first 3 articles of impeachment, charging obstruction of justice. August 8th, 1974. Richard Nixon becomes the first U.S. president to resign. Vice President Gerald R. Ford assumes the country's highest office. He will later pardon Nixon of all changes related to the Watergate case.